Flip over to YouTube and let's see if you can see it. We back on. Anybody hear sound? Do you have sound on your end, Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal was, but I do apologize for that, folks. So hopefully everybody can hear everything. I know we probably lost our viewers, but we are back on. I do apologize. It looks like we had the update from Windows and it must have changed a setting. I do apologize for that issue there. I've been really busy this whole day, and literally I just ran a test yesterday, so everything was fine. So the only thing I didn't do was check after the Windows update from Tuesday night. So I'm assuming that's what it is. So it sounds like we got it now. I see we've messed around with the settings, and everything should be fine. So I'm going to go in a little bit today. Again, I do apologize for the abrupt stop and then the restart here. My son has been pretty much mostly on our mind. He went in for a stress test this week, and it wasn't the results that they were hoping for or looking for. So we are now going on to an electrophysiologist, and he's going to have an MRI and some other tests. So we are still working through with what they can find out. Still have no answers. And I know I haven't been on Facebook. We've just been pretty much swamped with everything going on. So I do apologize if there's any questions or not. Annie, which is one of my subscribers, is going to help out a little bit right now. She's extremely knowledgeable. She's good at answering folks. So I do have a moderator, and I'm going to be hopefully getting another moderator on there to hopefully help out on Facebook. So you will see some stuff coming back up once we get through this thing here. So I've got a lot of videos we've shot in advance, so I will be doing standard videos and all. This weekend I will be on Facebook, hopefully on Saturday at the latest, maybe even Friday night, tomorrow night. So if you have anything going on Facebook, just please bear with us. This has been just kind of a really bad time for everything with my son and all the other things going on. So it's not over. It looks like it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Spent hours on the phone with the insurance company. This puts my son with a pre-existing condition, which is going to be with him for the rest of his life. So the whole fiasco with the insurance and, them trying to stop pre-existing conditions has been thrown into our lap as a nightmare at this point now. And it's already going back and forth with the insurance company. The MRI alone's like almost $4,000 without the cardiologist and the electrophysiologist present, which they're both going to be there. So, everything just jacks the price up. So, it might be a $15,000, $20,000 day for us. So anyway, we're just trying to work through it, make sure the insurance company will cover what they will, and just kind of going from there. So he's 16. He's not an adult yet. So, it's kind of bad for someone at that age, and being our kid, it's been a nightmare, I guess you could say. My father died at 17 from heart issues. My grandmother had him in the 30s, and when she was in the 30s. So, I'm always cautious, and we're very worrisome about this. So, enough on that. Let me. Hey, Ian, can you do me one more quick favor? Over there is a bag with some figures in it, if you can hand me that. I had a contest, and I'm just going to call this out because it's already in the mail. And I pointed out some figures here. Whoever got the most valuable one out of the lot was the one who won a free postcard. This is the gentleman here that's worth the most out of this lot. This is a Marks. He goes to a construction set. It was the only seated figure in the lot. This little guy here is worth $45. So just an FYI, he's very well detailed. Hopefully you can see that. Again, it's Marks. It's early 1950s. He is a construction worker, basically. Again, I've seen the vehicle this goes into. It's a tin-operated vehicle. In any of these size of figures like this, we always get 30 or 40 bucks for it. Just FYI. The other ones were literally maybe $1 or $2 I'll get out of the other figures. So just FYI. The best one in here, I bought this lot just for this little dude here. I got $1 or $2 into these. So these are just awesome stuff to find. So anyway. With the contest, Elizabeth with True72 is her YouTube username. She is actually the winner. She was the first one to get me the right one, the right figure. So anyway, we did get that out in the mail. I won't have a contest this week, but I will have one next week for Christmas. We are going to do our regular show next week, Thursday. And just standard, canned videos for the rest of the week. Again, my schedule could change with what's going on with my son, so I'm doing the best we can to get everything situated and answer as many things as we can. But again, Facebook, unfortunately, has been neglected just because of time constraints. And I'm just kind of broadcasting the information out here on this live feed so you can kind of get an idea on what's going up. I've had a lot of people conversation-wise and a lot of emails. I haven't answered all of them, so if I haven't got to your email, please bear with me through the weekend. There's no appointments. My son's got nothing else going on this weekend, so I will have some time this weekend to catch up on this. But just bear with us. A lot of the questions and comments I got were that they're slow. The business is slow. Literally, just before I came online, we were 32.4% up over last year over last, so it depends on what you're selling. I know I've talked personally with a few people this week on the phone, and their sales were a little dipped. One of the gentlemen that I talked to on Wednesday, he actually has an increase over last month and last year. Obviously, there's a couple people do, but for the most part, I'm hearing across the board that everybody's having dips in sales. Now, most of the people I've talked to, I've delved into what they're selling, and literally returns, new items. Newer toys, clothing, they're all down across the board. And, as I said before, the market is now split. You've got, so many other sources that people are selling on. So if you're just on eBay, you're just getting a section of the people buying. If you spread it out, you can help alleviate your downage in sales by selling on other sites. So, and I've talked about this before. We're on 8 platforms with the toys, which we'll be on as soon as I can get the photos to Benjamin at Tenacious Toys. So literally that's all I'm waiting on. With everything going on with my son and all the other things going on, I just haven't had a chance to get the photos edited for going up online. And I've got somebody else pending right now, since with everything going on with my son, I haven't had a chance to get with this other gentleman. So we tentatively have 2 deals with toy companies. One's a done deal. The second one, I haven't had a chance to get back with the gentleman. I'll just have to give him a call and get some stuff going. So we're advancing what we're doing. Obviously, we're a little slower on getting stuff, situated just because of my son's medical issues, and everything else going on. Unfortunately, it happened during the holiday, so, God knows what the bills are already, because he's seen several cardiologists at this point and all. So anyway, we're just going to move on. I'm not going to worry about the bills, but I'll call out some names probably in a little while. If you got questions, you can shoot those off in just a few minutes here as well too. But for an update for those who didn't hear, my son now will have a pre-existing condition for the rest of his life. So hopefully, the country gets something going on with, insurance. So it's not a good experience to find this stuff out, not when your child's, not even adult and has to deal with this. So anyway, insurance is my biggest concern right now. I don't even care, what happens after this point, as long as we get the insurance taken care of and, he gets the doctors that we need. The electrophysiologist, there isn't even one that I know of that we could find in the city. The one that comes in, he's in town twice a week, I think, and he's actually going to be in tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have a date set for an appointment for that. He's coming from the university in Michigan, so apparently for every 100 cardiologists, I should say, there's only 5 that are actually electrophysiologists. It's a rare breed, I guess. There's only 1,200 of them in the entire country, from what I was told in the information I found. So, God knows what it's going to cost, but, again, it would be nice if we fit in with the rest of the civilized world and had free insurance for everybody. I'd rather pay more in taxes, because at the end of the day, you're going to save 10 times what you're paying in taxes in medical expenses alone, especially if you have kids. I know a lot of people say you don't need insurance. I'm young. Nothing's going to happen. My son's 16. So anybody who's 18, 19, 20 thinks that, I'm young, nothing's going to happen. My son's not even an adult. He's 16. It happens to kids. It happens to everybody. not having insurance is just, stupid. I'll just be blunt and out there. Just like having business insurance, get yourself a business owner's policy. For something like this, I have a business owner's policy. So if I miss work because of a medical emergency with my son, I can still collect the amount of money I would earn on that day through my business owner's policy. If my son's in the hospital a week and I have to shut down my business owner's policy will cover my lost eBay wages. Basically what you're paying yourself. Now you've got to have, all your documentation. You've got to have a steady stream of income so you can prove that this is what you make. Obviously at this point I have no issues with that, but insurance in general, I don't care what age you are, this is a perfect example where, something rocks your world based on a child, and then you realize that you're not going to live forever. Everybody needs this insurance. So again, with business, your eBay business, if this is all you are doing, your only source of income, you darn well better get yourself a business owner's policy and protect your business as well too, because who knows what's going to happen in life. So anyway, let me see here. Let me pop up here and see if we've got. I appreciate all the comments. Where are we? West First Books. I don't use File Explorer on eBay listings or anything like that. No. Thanks, Patricia. Yes, Merry Christmas. It is almost here next week. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, sound is back, I can definitely say. Yeah, insurance-wise, I don't know what it would cost in other countries. I hear it all the time. We have friends actually who live in Canada that I do talk to. He's an eBayer, mind you, in Canada, and I hear all the complaints from people saying, "Hey, you can't get service. You have to wait in line. It takes forever to do this. It takes forever to do that." It's just not the case. And a lot of things like they say, you got to wait for a ultrasound and CAT scan and the CT and MRIs. When you look into the actual medical, our country has a subscribed or prescribes those for so many things. And the point on that is, if you dig into it, other countries do not do as many, nearly, of any of those things, the MRIs, the ultrasounds, the CT scans, as we do. We're almost twice as much. Across the globe, we do twice as much of all of those procedures than most every other country in the civilized world, and our outcome is less than theirs. Most of those, who knows on the necessity on them, insurance company gets, $4,000 a pop if they do, an MRI or something. So, to me, it comes down to almost being a money issue, that they just want our money, and they're not worried about the health, the cost benefit analysis of these issues, that's the issue. I don't want to go off into any political aspect of this, but I just strongly feel that we should have free health care for every man, woman, and child in this country. As a given right, life, liberty. You don't have life without health. So, it kind of contradicts the whole atmosphere. And every country, that's anywhere, anything, Germany, France, all of Europe, Canada, even Mexico has some. Even, it's sad when Cuba or Costa Rica, third world countries have better insurance, better outcomes, and cheaper rates than anybody, in this country can get. It's sad that Cuba, everybody picks on Cuba. Cuba has better health care than we do. Costa Rica has better health care than we do. And I'm just picking out two that most people wouldn't even think about, and we're like 38 or 39. We've actually lost a spot in the world, for the World Health Organization. This isn't some, biased organization. This is a non-political party-oriented World Health Organization that, helps to fight, Ebola and all these other things going around. So, it's not some fictitious number. We're ranked 38 or 39 in the world for healthcare systems. That's how not so good our healthcare is in this country. We pay higher rates for everything than everybody else does on the planet. So, this is one of those needs, where you see the difference here. Hopefully it doesn't take something like this for other people to realize that, government health care would be the best thing for, the country. It would cost everybody less money. People wouldn't be afraid to go to the doctor. They wouldn't be afraid to, take a prescription that costs $900 because they wouldn't have to pay that for it. Everybody knows what the prescription costs. So anyway, I don't want to go on about that too long here. It's just our issue. So just bear with me, please, with getting to your answers or answering your questions and things like that. So, it's not going to be a super long video today just because we've had a lot going on. I've been up since 5 something this morning. So, it kind of drags on a little bit here. So I lost a little steam today with, everything going on emotional wise and everything else. So anyway, I appreciate all the comments and stuff from everybody. Let me see here. Yeah, now here's something on sales. Now I hear everybody talking about it's over for mailing stuff to FBA. FBA is just part of my business, so I don't worry so much when FBA the deadline hits or eBay's deadline hits for getting items delivered before Christmas. For us, I do just as much, no exaggeration. Maybe I'll show some of the sales here after this year, maybe in my Patreon at least. The sales for us in first quarter of 2019 are going to be the same spot where they're at right now in fourth quarter of 2018. It's been like this for the last 5 years. My sales do not tank at all. I'll probably still be increasing for the week of Christmas next week. After New Year's, I'll get a big, huge bump. It'll be even higher than that probably. And again, this is figures I've had since we've been full-time. So 6+ years of doing this. This is religiously how my sales go. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to put that out there, but I've diversified our store horrendously. We've limited stuff that doesn't sell as high or as a flooded market on eBay. We have stuff on other sites as well. I don't always talk about all the other sites, but we do a lot of stuff on other sites too. So, eBay isn't the one and only place to get anything. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. Carl Bach gave a super chat. Again, I don't never ask for anything. I'm very bad on trying to promote myself, unfortunately. I guess I just don't pay enough attention like some of the other YouTubers, but I do appreciate that. Thank you very kindly. But a lot of what goes on here with what I do and why I don't lose sales is because a lot of people will get money for gifts, or they're not buying certain items this time of year. So people aren't going to buy used clothing for the most part for gifts this time of year. Most of their money's going to buy gifts after Christmas is over. They get another paycheck after Christmas. So you'll see people spending on unnecessary items again after Christmas. They've already done shopping for Christmas. They're relaxing. This is what I personally see in the items that I sell. Most of the items I sell wouldn't be bought for Christmas in the first place. So my sales are up right now. No exaggeration, no fantasy number. It's 32 points some odd right this minute. It was 34 yesterday, so I lost a 2% ground in being up from last year in a day or so, or since Wednesday. I'm sorry, yesterday. So, sales wise, I don't worry at this time of year. You might have a slow day here, you might have a slow day there. Think of what you're selling. Think about how much stuff you actually have up in your store as well, too. And as I've said, eBay used to be this one-centered stuff where you could sell everything you wanted in one specific site. To recoup that amount of money, you have to spread out to a bunch of sites. You've got to cover what has taken some of eBay's business away to have your sales still up. Cross-listing stuff is key these days. There are very few people that can actually make a full-time straight eBay salary just off of eBay alone. Most people that I know and most YouTubers that you see sell on other sites. Amazon is almost always a given. I know some people who sell on Walmart.com. We do Discogs. You've got Etsy, Poshmark, wherever you sell. We don't personally do Poshmark anymore. We tried it. It just wasn't our thing. Nothing against it. Nothing wrong with Poshmark. I personally know people that are making several $1,000s extra just on Poshmark. They took their clothing off of eBay and swapped it to Poshmark, and they're making a ton of money over there. Not a ton, but enough to live on. So and then you just cross list and stuff like that. One other thing I wanted to address too, you've got income tax coming up. Anybody who's doing this full-time, get yourself an accountant. I honestly recommend an accountant for anybody doing this full-time. At least sit down with one, get a free consultation so that you know that you are doing your taxes correctly. Anything I talk about on doing inventory is how I personally do inventory, how I personally do my business. you have to have, somebody, legal professional to tell you what's safe and not safe in your business, and how you do it. I've got labor, I've got other things that a lot of people don't do. We've got processing and all kinds of other things that we do here just because of sheer bulk of stuff coming in. I pay people to sort, I pay people to box up and bag and shelf it and things like that. So I've got more into items than most people do, than just buying it. So, look into accounting. I never have recommended or will recommend any specific way for you to do your taxes or your accounting or your inventory. The government standard says that you can do your inventory and your taxes any way you wish, as long as it's first legal, and second, that you use the same way every time. You don't flip back and forth and here and there. There's exceptions to that, like if you go to an S corp. Most people are starting off as a sole proprietor. It's usually the cheapest way to start a business. Next level up was an LLC, legally licensed corporation, I guess is the technical terminology. LLC is what you'll hear. Those are the folks who have been usually doing this for a little longer. And then you'd be someone like us who has an S corporation. As an S corporation, I pay myself from the company, and then I only pay my self-employment tax. Well, it's not technically a self-employment. I'm just paying, employment tax just like anybody else. I get the standard paperwork like we send out. You fill out the W-4s, you get the I-9s, all that kind of stuff, just like I'm an employee for the company that I personally own. That's how an S-corp works. That is always the best way for something like this. The pretty much everybody I know who's making a ton of money and has multiple accounts runs an S corp. So I know we're talking a little bit off subject here that I usually talk about, but you've got the end of the year coming up. I've already got all my figures in up to literally 2 days ago. So keep a running total on your stuff. Don't wait to the end of the year to figure out your account. Don't wait to the end of the year to balance your inventory, to get your P&L statements together. I know a lot of people may not know what a P&L statement is. You may not even need one if you're small. But for someone like me, a P&L statement is a breakdown of all your income, every dime that comes in and every dime that goes out, and it balances your profits versus your losses. So you can look at one of these P&L statements. Maybe I'll show one if I get a bunch of comments down and underneath the video here. But on something like this, a P&L statement is essential for me. It's how I can tell basically where I'm losing money if I'm losing money, or where I have opportunities. As a regional manager, when I ran restaurants and things like that, I would go into a store, and the one piece of paperwork I always asked for prior to arriving at any store was a P&L form. Their complete P&Ls for the entire year. And the next thing I would ask for is their inventory counts, their inventory sheets, and their statements along that line, just to balance. And that's what I do personally with my eBay account. And I do have a Patreon account, and I do have people now that I do consultations with. So if you're unaware, I don't go in, and I never will recommend to anybody a specific accounting method. That is honestly something you have to figure out. So don't think I'm going to give that information out. I can tell you basics, and that's about all I really would recommend talking about, just because I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea or pick a method based on what I personally do. Again, I've got special considerations and special needs above and beyond what most people do, because I have multiple people on a payroll, and I've got multiple other things that we do. So I pay people to do videos. I pay hourly for helping out with models and processing. As I said, there's so many other things that we do here that most people won't do. So there's ways for doing inventory when you've got more labor as opposed to inventory and things along that line. So just check into it. Get a legal advice from a certified public accountant, a CPA, to do that. Get yourself an EIN number as well. They don't cost anything. I mean, it's nothing. Get yourself that. If you plan on doing this for a living, set yourself up right. The EIN right away. Get yourself a business bank account, so anything that happens, your money is separated, so that there's a way to prove that this is your pay versus the business's income. That's the only way to do it. So then you'd pay yourself out of your business account, so you'd have multiple accounts. We actually have multiple business accounts, because we have one that our accountant has access to, and then we have one that we transfer the funds from PayPal, or that's directly deposited from Amazon or any of the other sites that we use. and it goes from there, and it's divided up. It's basically a pass-through account, so and it holds money. It's nothing illegal about it. This is the way most businesses do it. They'll have a accounts payable account, which they'll actually pay bills from. They'll maybe have a payroll account. As many companies or stores may have 3 or 4 accounts specifically. It just depends on how it's set up. Every corporation's got multiple accounts. I know I'm not huge, I'm not some big corporations, but I set this all up when I started. A business account with most banks in this country is free. We do not pay for any of the business accounts that I have. So just check around and call around. Call around and check the ratings on the bank if it's a small town bank. I try to stick to at least something regional or higher when I do banking as well. And I also look at the best interest rates and things along that line. So, I know we're going off again on stuff, but this is all key things that you need to pay attention to. You've got just a few weeks left, and this year is over. If this is your first year doing eBay, you may not have a ton. You may not have to worry about too much. It may be something you do for yourself and do your own taxes. I did my own taxes the first couple of years, but once we started with employees and all the other stuff that goes on in here, again, I switched over and I just pay somebody. If you're interested and you're doing a good business, you're doing, at least say $8,000 or $10,000 a month in sales, you're on the verge of wanting to get an S corp. An S corp's going to cost you probably $1,000 to $1,500 to get yourself incorporated as an S corp. And that's my honest recommendations for anybody would be the S corp way around it. So anyway, if you got any questions or anything like that, we can go ahead and answer some of those. Again, I do appreciate all the comments and such forth. For those who missed, my son is doing some other things. We have some more tests to go through. Still no answers, still no idea on what's going on or what caused it. He's got low blood pressure now, so, we've got a bunch of other stuff to consider. So anyway, and again, thank you, Carl. I just got back down to the spot. Oh, pal, yes, the medical gets a game, and it is basically to make money. The health and well-being of most people is second consideration. The need to make money and a profit is all I see for the most part in this country. And I've been to Canada and places like that, so I know that the people who live in that country aren't bothered by their healthcare system at all. I saw a video, and this is just an example versus our country versus some other ones. I saw a on the street reporter who talked to people here and asked how much they trust their banks and where their money's stored. Almost everybody in this country was leery on their banker or their broker, whatever the case may be. They went to Canada and asked that same question. There hasn't been a single person on any of those videos who didn't have a good thing to say about their bank. They've asked, when has the market crashed? When has the government, bounced basically and not been able to meet their debts? In this country, our banks had 17 plus major instances that have set off the market and caused bank issues, bank crashes and things. Canada has 0. For the history of their country, they've had 0 issues like that, 0 bank runs, 0 any of this. It's just a perfect example. I know usually that's not related to the money-wise, but our country is just as backwards in that as we are in healthcare. Again, healthcare should be a right. I shouldn't have to worry about, how I'm going to pay for a medical bill that's going to be a pre-existing condition for my son for the rest of his life. It's just not right. But anyway, again, I'll get off that subject because it's a very touchy subject on our behalf. If you guys can start popping in how your sales are going on, just so we can maybe get a consensus on sales here. Painful. Saigon 111. Sales are painful. Again, it depends on what you sell. For those of you who have been pounding and getting stuff listed, rule of thumb for us is I buy stuff through the summer, and before the end of summer, I'm trying to crank up as much as I can. You need to have everything you own basically up. We'll never do that because I've just got so many. I've got a couple 100,000 items that aren't listed just because of how our business runs and how we do it. I've got nothing into it, so I'm not losing on that. But the rule of thumb is to have everything you own up for fourth quarter. So people laxed or they love buying the stuff and they just can't get the stuff listed quick enough. I would stop listing or stop sourcing for a little while in fourth quarter and even in the beginning of first quarter. Just list everything you have sitting there. If you've got a dead pile, if that's what you call it, I call it backstock, but if you have a dead pile backstock, now's the time to list it up there. Get it up. You're going to see some increases in your sales. I can just promise you that. put some stuff up there. I know I've talked to many people who've got a ton of stuff they've been laxing off. They want to spend time with their family, and then at the same point, family, obviously you have to spend time with your family, but at the same point, they're not putting in more than 6-8 hours a day working to get the eBay sales coming in, and they're complaining about their sales. My sales are up, but we're doing 12 hours a day plus every day. Well, not every day. Sundays I'm usually only working an hour or two just to put up a video, and maybe pack up a few in the evening. But the rest of the week, 6 days for the rest of the week, I'm usually at least 10, 12 hours. Monday through Friday, I do 12 hours every day. It's 14 on many days. I can stop and start, so it's not like I'm confined. Saturday, I usually do 8 or 10. But again, I'm looking and increasing. We're moving our sales up. And that's what it takes me to keep my sales going up. All that activity on my account pushes my listings up because of eBay's, search criteria and how that works. The more activity you have, just like here on YouTube, the more activity you have, the more your videos are pushed out. So, eBay works basically the same way, just like a Google search result and things like that. It all works the same way. So, the more you do on eBay, the more you list, the more active you are. That honestly, from everything I see, helps immensely. I have the same items listed in 2 of my eBay stores right this minute. You can tell. You can also do tests. I know you can't tell everything about eBay's search criteria, but if you do certain things, you can give a good idea on what pops up, why. You have to basically do searches on multiple PCs from different locations, different, IPs and the whole works, so this is something that you can coordinate with other people and record the results on what shows up. You can literally get some good information on, how eBay's search results work that way. You can't, know 100%, but I've gotten pretty good at being able to tell on, some of these aspects. And I can prove that a lot of what I talk about works just by sheer, quantity and testing and searching that we do. I've got other friends that we do this with. So I'll have, several computers here. I'll have a couple other people doing it as well, and we'll search the same items at the same time and see and compare the actual results. And these will be from straight clean servers. We'll have wiped out, any internet information. It'll be a fresh search. All historical data will be cleared. So, a fresh browser, fresh window, no temp files, nothing. No cookies will be saved, and that's the only way to tell. And I've been pretty good on knowing what's going on, but again, it takes a lot of time to do that. So anyway, again, if anybody's got their sales history, what's been going on with everybody, we can pop that in here and we can see what's going on. Aaron, how should we evaluate values on foreign postcards? In all honesty, Aaron, I don't mess with most foreign postcards. I very rarely mess with any foreign postcards. There's a few AUFDEM, AUFDEM, with a city name in Germany. Some of those are worth some money. They're usually only RPPCs. The only countries I really mess with are some really horrendously cool small town real picture postcard, real photo postcards of like England, small towns, railroads in England. And again, they have to be very specific. And then China are my next best ones. There aren't many other foreign ones that I mess with. I never buy French postcards at all. French cards just don't sell in general at all. Most foreign cards don't sell in general. And the way I ship, it would be rare to send one overseas anyway because I track everything. And most people aren't going to want to spend $10 or $14 to ship overseas. Canada, I still list many Canada cards, but they're usually like the Yukon area or real early ones, 1898 Pioneer era postcards or a little later. For the most part, all of Central America and South America postcards. Most of those don't sell at all. You might sell a few from Panama, only because we've had a presence there for the canal, and there are some collectors of Panama postcards because of that. But overall, I don't sell or mess with foreign postcards. If you're looking at lots of postcards to buy at an auction, you're at a live auction, if there's mostly foreign, don't buy them. I don't care how old they are, how nice they look. Unless there's China postcards in there, it's just not worth your time. Personal experience, and this is literally my experience, I won't mess with them. I used to buy many foreign ones hoping and looking into it, but all you got to do is like do a search, do a comp search, French postcard or British postcard or German postcard, and look what you see. You won't find many selling for any high dollar amounts whatsoever. compared to US. $1,000 postcard for a US postcard is not strange, bizarre, or anything else. There's many, and almost any day of the week, if you looked and did a comp search on eBay, you'd probably find a postcard that was in the $1,000 range. Chances are it's, baseball related or a China related postcard. But other than that, I don't mess with them. So hopefully that answers that. Let's see, Carl, taking advantage of slower sales this week because so close to Xmas and listing a ton. Listing, that's exactly right. I don't buy hardly anything or compared to what I buy in the summer. In summer is your best time to buy. Once you get a routine, you've done this through the first year, now you're going into your second year, you should have a good judge on what's going to happen, how busy you are, what you need to do, and looking at your sales. You're not going to really be able to compare and get a good idea until you went through towards your second year to see when they drop, when they start, and when to bomb them. But for us, I buy as much as I can through the summer. So I say it's not a dead pile, it's a backstock. So I'll buy a ton of stuff through the summer. And that's when it's the cheapest. There's so much more stuff available in the summer, so it's cheaper then. When it comes in the fourth quarter, there's no garage sales around here. There's no church sales, really. There's very few estate sales. There are some live auctions, so, I still have pickers. I've got one less. One of my pickers did pass away. But beyond that, I don't buy a lot in the winter. That's my time to list. That's my time to expand my business as much as I can. So you should be listing. It's not Christmas yet. Take off Christmas Eve. Take off Christmas. Treat yourself if you had a real good month. But if you're still down, you list through this weekend. List right on up till Sunday evening as much as you can get up. Spend all day. Spend 12 hours a day if that's what it takes. The drive is what I talk about. So if you're not serious and you don't want to work 12-hour days, you're not going to make it. It's just not possible in these days for the average person. Now, I know there's people out there who do it, only work a few hours a week and can still do it. They found a niche. They found a retail wholesale deal. Or their private branding, or they have contracts with somebody. They're selling for somebody else. There's just no other way around it. That's what I see. I've done this for a long time. These aren't just me shooting out some bogus BS on here. This is the facts in the matter. I've got 6+ years of full-time eBay selling, 20+ years of selling in eBay in general, 20 solid years. So I've got the backing, to say, this is how it works for us. And as I said, I am not down. I am up 32.4 or somewhere in that percentage. The other day it was 34, so we're a hair down, but that's expected. I didn't expect to be up this high versus last year. So I'm way up, as I said. We've got more, people than we had working before, though. We list more items. I've got more stores, with stuff in it that's just going hog wild. We're, on Amazon, we've branched out and things like that. So, let's go down and see. We got some questions. The truth. I don't sell used clothing, mainly hard goods. Sales this summer are through the roof for me. It depends on what you sell. The truth is a perfect example. It just depends on what you sell. You sell the right items, in-demand items. Rule of thumb is the majority of your store for Christmas should just be items that people want in general. They don't have to be Christmas items, but we do list every Christmas item we have in the hopes to sell more of the Christmas items now because you're going to get more money for them. So, most of my items, you see my store, you see what sells. Most people aren't going to consider any of that Christmas. But sure enough, my sales go up through fourth quarter. I don't have any big drop in summer. 10 grand on a summer month is nothing for us still. That's old news. That's a couple years ago. We're well beyond that these days. Summer months, you can still have those sales going on. Again, we buy and then we list just as much as we do. Obviously, end of summer into fourth quarter, we list like mad because we're doing less picking. So set yourself up right. When this coming up year is coming, look ahead towards summer. You should have already be looking ahead towards next year, well into next year, not just, the beginning, January, February, March. As I've said, we're already looking into Christmas for next year. Set yourself up right, to get the good deals, to get the discounts and all that stuff going. You just got to have your stuff, looked into well in advance. So, let's go back to some questions here. Now, I know I'm going long-winded on this, but, now's the time. We're looking towards next year, and everybody else should be thinking about the future and not just 1 week in advance or 2 weeks in advance or, God, I hope I make it to the end of the year. You got to be thinking months at a time. You got to be setting out a plan. As I said, my plan is I buy as much as I can in the summer. I don't buy as much in the winter, and I just cram up the listings. Why waste gas and time when stuff costs more to buy? Right now, auctions are higher. You're spending 10, 20, 30% more now at an auction to buy stuff at a local live auction than you would in summer. There's more competition at those same auctions. There's less places to buy, at least up here. If you're in the South, sunny Florida, California, it's a totally different market. But where I'm at, I have to go with the flow and go with the market. So, again, what I'm saying works for me may not work for you. But anywhere up north, that's what you got to do. Thrift stores around here, no one could be making money on the thrift stores around here. I'm constantly get people from Ohio telling me that they can't make it. So, I know that's the fact. But I went astray. I don't go with the flow. I don't do what most other people do. We've got all kinds of different methods. Some of them I've talked about, others I haven't, that keep our sales going. So, that's what your goal is, to do whatever it takes. And I can't express that enough. If you can't do what it takes and can't do those 12 or 14 hours, quit right now. Just drop off, quit, go back to your normal full-time job, because you're going to have those days. You're going to have to bust your butt. Could I relax right now and still have a steady income? Yeah, I could easily do that and not hurt me probably much at all. But I'm not going to do that. I'm got my goals, and now with my son going on, I'm not stopping. And we're putting the pedal down to the floor, and we're going full steam at everything, Literally, we're probably going to hire another person here in January, the first week in January, right off the bat. I've got, the toy stuff going. We've got a show coming up in July that we have to have. I want to have 20 or 30 ones complete, boxed, ready to be shipped out. That's a ton of money when you're pricing out something at 700 plus. These things go, 30 times $700. That's a pretty good chunk of change. So anyway, just get your stuff going, I guess I could say. Let's see here. Global shipping program is good. They are going to adjust it from what I understood, so that maybe the costs will go down where it'll be more practical. I track all my receipts and miles, etc., and use TurboTax. We have used TurboTax. TurboTax walks you through it. So if you're new, your first year or two, TurboTax is just fine. You don't necessarily have to pay somebody. I would just recommend getting a book from the library on filing your taxes, business-wise, small business. How to succeed in a small business without getting in trouble with the IRS used to be one of the key books that I always recommended. I don't know if the edition nowadays is up to standard. It's been a few years since I recommended it. But there's plenty of books out there like that will get you the basic knowledge so you can do your own taxes and save a lot of money. Average taxes for a business of my size might cost you $1,500 at the end of the year just to do our taxes. But again, they usually two people do our taxes, just because there's one person does one aspect of it and somebody else finalizes and does the rest of it. It's a lump sum deal that you pay for these, but know some of this. You should have already known what you're going to do with your taxes at this point. So if you haven't and now you're scrambling to figure it out, get that in place. Get all your receipts marked down. I've got spreadsheets that I've shared. If you're in my Patreon group and you need some questions on that, shoot me a line for those in the Patreon. And, if you want something altered, I'll be happy to change some things and switch them around. Excel is the best, what I personally use. I know people use some of the online inventory programs. I don't use any of that. I don't like sharing my information. If you aren't aware, Facebook was hacked again. They're in some big trouble at this point. Because it's a constant issue with Facebook being hacked. This one affected millions of people again. It just went out in the news. They knew about it again, and they didn't release the information for a certain length of time like they promised they would. So my feelings on Facebook is Facebook's going to get themselves in trouble, and it may not be a viable platform if they keep going the way they are. So anyway, I know Facebook has a ton of views, daily viewership, but their safety is terrible. Just terrible. Anyway. You're about to get your license, Carl, if that's what I understand that to be. About to go license. Oh, LLC. I'm sorry, I got you there. So I would say that you're a sole proprietor. That's the steps you make. As you're doing better in your business, start off with the cheapest option you can. Get the sole proprietor if that's what it is in your state. I'm sure your state has a sole proprietor. So get a sole proprietor. Get your county license or whatever license you need. And then from there, once you start doing better, go for the LLC. Once you have employees and you have multiple hands and fingers just spread out all over with your business, look into an S Corp. You're going to save yourself, thousands of dollars above and beyond the cost of setting up an S Corp, because you're going to pay yourself again, and you're not going to be worried about it. Your taxes will be taken out throughout the year, just out of your paycheck, just like anything else. You can give yourself a bonus at the end of the year legally. So at the end of the year, if you've got a ton of money and you wanted to make a little more money, just pay yourself out a bonus. There's nothing wrong with that. Most bonuses are paid at the end of the quarter anyway. So that's how we personally look at it, for doing taxes and such forth. So get yourself a set pay. You get paid so much every single week with an S corp, and then if you want the bonuses, go that route. Keep enough in your company to cover expenses or any other aspect that you have. Is my always recommendation. So whatever your bills are, to keep it, whether you have warehouse bills, keep at least 3 months worth of funds available in your company funding bank account, your business bank account, to cover any of that in case something happens. So 3 times is what I usually look for in the bank for my bills. So just anyway. Balance the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, and end of the quarter, and then end of the year. Easy if you do it every day. Yeah, it only takes a few minutes if you do it every day. In most businesses that I do, I've only done it once a week, so I usually do it at the end of the week. I do keep track of my sales daily. I have spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, so nothing gets pushed under the rug or anything. I do write down all my receipts immediately. I save everything. I've got envelopes for each month, and then they're sorted and stacked in by the date. They just pop up on an Excel spreadsheet, and I just categorize them, whether they're admin, supplies, merchandise, any of that kind of stuff. I've got multiple categories. PayPal fee, I break it down into a expense sheet, and then that expense sheet goes and all that information is automatically pulled through the Excel workbooks to a P&L statement. And the P&L statement is the end of the line here. It's got a breakdown of every dime I've taken in and every dime I've spent. I'll probably do the beginning of the year prior to tax date a couple videos covering, some do's and don'ts on taxes. Things that you don't want to do, like, writing off meals and things like that, unless it's actually for your business. We've got separate clothing that I actually write off, and I know people made fun of me in the past for doing that, but I have work clothing. This is a work shirt. I can write that off. I can't write off personal shirts. My clothing stays in a separate room where we do the videos and things like that and where I work. I've got a separate place that it hangs, so if anybody actually questions it, I can bona fide that it's not even stored with my clothing, with my normal personal clothing. That may sound ridiculous, but it saves us hundreds of dollars a year by doing it that way, because I rip shirts, I get stuff damaged, I ruin a pair of jeans, I wear out a pair of shoes. It's all a tax write-off when you do it that way. But if you wear those same shoes all the time for business and pleasure, you can't do it. So, take this all into heart. Every dime you can save, whether you penny pinching or not, is a dime that you are earning. This isn't some other company's money. This is your money. So just take that into consideration. I'm, again, going to be cutting it off a little short today just because we've got a big day with, the kids and everything tomorrow and stuff. So let's see if we got some more questions, if you got some here. Yeah, Carl, definitely track everything. Let me pop up and see if we get some questions here, because I've talked about this before. My feed, my chat is terrible here for some reason, and I am way off here on my. I think we're caught up. Stephen Rose resells with 658 listings as of right now. I am down 44.5%. What are you down? Are you comparing month over last or over last year? If you are new to doing this, you're going to have a learning curve, I can tell you right now. I wouldn't sink all of my marbles into one thing. If you're new to doing something, I would diversify. The first thing you do, long tail items are what you're looking at. And if you're spending more money and you don't have a huge store, you've got more cost into your long tail items than I do. So again, I've talked about this before. Whatever I do doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So if you've got that issue, you need to go back in Stephen, and look at your costs. Look at what you have. Look at even the category you're listing them in. If it's a military one, you can list some of those in military. If it's transportation postcards, you can list those in transportation category. Not even in the postcard section, but just in a different category. If they're Disney related ones, I many times will list those in a Disney category. If they're dogs or animals, I can list those in the collectibles, the animals section under the dogs. Perfect example, I had somebody who had I think it was a unicorn, a set of unicorn postcards. She hadn't sold them in a while, had them in postcards. She had them priced low, recommended pricing them high, moving into the other category, and literally within hours, the item sold for what the increased price was. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everything, but that's the game you play. If you're new, this is your first time out, Stephen. You're just getting these up for the first time. You maybe you don't know the postcards you have. Maybe the research isn't good. There's a learning curve, and I'm gonna be the first one to tell you I did terribly my first year or so in picking the right ones to sell. Some items you have up may be something that should have went in a bin or in a lot versus selling individually. One of again, I talked about my talk. I do some consultations and things for eBay stores. I went over a gentleman's store, and he has some items in there. No criticism if he's watching. I'm not going to call any names or anything. And some of the items in there were things that I would have never listed on their own. Again, it's a learning curve. Just because you see one item and you think it's similar doesn't necessarily mean it's the same. Let's pick an example, a real picture postcard of a baby. Very few of those are going to sell. But you get the right one, you got the eye for knowing which one's the right one, you can get some good money on a card that most people would say isn't going to sell. The typical card of a person or something like that that's a real picture postcard. And I've looked at 4 stores this week. 4 stores that we've talked, and I do stuff with other people. And out of those stores, some of the items that they aren't selling are items that I wouldn't have listed in the first place. So if you've just pushed to push a bunch of stuff up to get your store built up, go back in and look at those items if you're having a sales decrease. The other thing I could say, if you're comparing last month to this month and you sell in a whole bunch of different categories, when eBay gives you those totals, you're up over last month or down over last month, it's only for the top 2 categories you sell in. So if those categories changed, your sales aren't, those month over last or year over last aren't going to mean a thing when it comes to eBay. That's why I say I do my calculations in my knowing whether I'm up or down based on Excel spreadsheets and not what eBay says. Because again, I can't rely on those 2 categories being the same all the time because we sell in so many different categories. Like with you, Stephen, you've got a whole bunch of cards in one specific category. You need to branch out. So if postcards are down for you in one day, you don't have any backup to fall on. If you're going to run a long tail one, you've got to have different items. You branch out to toys, branch out to music or records or discs, or do some clothing, not necessarily specific clothing. You can do ties. We still sell baseball caps, snapback hats, and things like that. I'll still mess with ties, things that I don't have to sit there and measure or figure out sizes or anything like that I know will sell quick. Diversify. That's the biggest 100% way that you're going to increase your sales. And again, if you've got hundreds of items just sitting there, list those. Don't buy if you're not getting the return on it. Just keep listing the items. It's 4th quarter, as I said before earlier in this video. Stuff's higher now. Watch your costs into them. Watch what you're buying. Most of the time when people are having decrease in sales, it's the learning curve aspect. You're new to this. You don't know specifically which cards. It's hard to show somebody, and I've done this for so long. I can look at a stack of cards and pretty much tell you which ones are going to sell. Am I right all the time? No, but the majority of the cards that I have a good feeling are going to sell usually do sell. Not just me that can do this. There's so many people who've done this for a long time. It's a time factor. Nobody was in their first year could pick out every brand of clothing. I know we suffered in clothing our first year. I was missing things. I missed a hole, or I missed a stitch, or there was a spot that I didn't see, or I bought it, I got home, and it had a damage or was missing something that I couldn't fix. So I lost a lot of money. I listed items that weren't worth listing. That's my basic issue there. Go back through those, Stephen. I mean, as long as you've got good items and you've done your homework, you shouldn't have to worry too much. Go back and check your prices. The next thing to check, if anybody who's having sales issues, go up into the marketing manager. Go up and look at marketing. Sort it by the amount of watchers you have on your items, and then do some marketing on the ones that have a bunch of watchers. You've probably got your prices too high. Let's say if something's been up for 30, 60, 90 days, you have 5 watchers on that item and no movement on it. Chances are your price is off. Maybe your photos are bad. Photos are a huge difference. I see people who sell stuff that I couldn't imagine selling clothing-wise, but their photos were the bomb compared to mine. I'm terrible on on photos. My wife's great on the jewelry and all that stuff, and Ian and some of the other people here do great photos for the paperwork and stuff. But for clothing, it's hard to sell them with bad photos. The photo can make such a big difference in selling your items. I promise you. Getting all the clutter out of your photos and just showing a big white background is a big plus from what I personally see as well too. It's required in Amazon. It's required in other sites. That's part of the reason why we only have white backgrounds, so I can cross-list it on other sites without having to worry. So, again, don't tie all your stuff to eBay as well either. The market is spread out, and every day it's more and more diluted. eBay is just one of the sites we use. I say it again. We're on eight sites with the toys. You got to be on that many sites, maybe, depending on what you're selling. There's postcard sites, which we're going to cover too, specific sites that do it. You don't make as much on the postcard sites for the expensive cards, but you're going to sell some more cards in there, so some of the cheaper ones may sell. It just depends on your philosophy. Maybe you are wanting to get more sales out and don't want to do the same shipping method I do. I do, the $3.50 I charge for shipping a $3 postcard, so $6.50 to get a postcard. Maybe you want to risk it and not worry about Top Rated Plus and, get a little better share of the market. For those who don't do Top Rated Plus and ship postcards with just a postage stamp and a regular envelope, they sell more than me card-wise. Maybe they don't do the dollar amount that we do because they're selling cheaper cards, but you will sell more if you don't worry about the Top Rated Seller Plus and just ship them out without tracking on some items. You run a higher risk, but they're cheap cards, That's another option for you too. Again, just because I do something, it doesn't mean that whole method's going to work for you. Check your items out. For anybody, for any of you having issue on items that you think should sell, check out your pricing. Do another comp search on them. Just because they were up a month ago or 2 months ago, the comp said they were going high, you could come back today and look at those exact same items and have a different result where those items just aren't selling as high. That's just what I personally see. We've done this for a long time. You see my sales. I'm not dropping. We're selling the same items winter, summer, spring, fall. But we list every single day. We list something. Even on Sunday, even on my day off, I'll probably throw a few things up just to get ahead of the game. So if you're dropping off, you're relaxing. If you got another job, you're not in the same ballpark. That's different. You've got more commitment that you have to take care of your full-time job, eBay second. But if you're trying to make eBay first shot, your only job, you're going to be having to do this constantly. You're just starting off. Anybody in their first year even on eBay, you probably are required or should be doing 12-hour days. At least 5 12-hour days. Take the weekend off if that's what you wish. Don't ship out on Saturday. It's not going to ding you at all. These are all things you can do to increase. It's just things that I did when I started. Nowadays, I don't worry as much. I would rather give up a few cents in letting stuff run long tail than anything else. Those in the Patreon group, you saw the video on the my breakdown on long tail. There's a method to what I do, and the method works. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in what I do, and there's probably maybe 40 or 50 people out of the subscribers that I've talked to who do things very similar to me. They've mimicked the procedure, and they're getting similar results. They'll list a bunch of stuff that day. They'll sell a bunch the very first day. They get it up, and then it staggers. Those items are paid for, and then they get residual income from there. Again, but it takes a ton of work. I research every single postcard I list. Every single piece of paper, every single thing I list online is researched. I don't care if it takes me hours extra to do it. Every single thing I list is researched. If I haven't looked for it in a while, like 6 months or so, and I know what it used to sell for, I'll probably look it up again to make sure the market hasn't changed. The market changes constantly, so, that's just a touch on that. Sales up 61%, impulse buyers in at the moment. Sold a penny black cover 165. That's pretty good, Duncan. Penny black, type that in if you don't know what it is. It is the queen, the stamp. It's a very specific stamp. It's a very famous stamp, actually. Most covers with the 1 centers on it like that go for decent money. So look up the penny that we were just talking about here. It's something you should look for, honestly. I'm still researching to start taking this more seriously, so only some basic listings to test out. Know it. That's a good point, Kathy. You need to know what you're doing before you jump full steam. A lot of people will actually mess up stuff because they don't know how it all works, and that's where they get themselves in trouble, and that can penalize them from the start. You can have bad experience, have a bad feedback because you listed something or didn't know on policies. A lot of people mess up on refunding people. They don't do it in a certain length of time. They don't follow through on things. So it's just something to think about. Let's see here. Listed some jackets. Always list, yes. Found a local auction. I'm getting a ton to list later as I can. Next year is going to be great. Planning for next year. Venture into different stuff. Make sure you're spending wisely. You're investing properly, though. Things do cost more this time of year, so just take that in consideration as well. Sam Dallas, my sales doubled all the way through the fourth quarter compared for the first 3 quarters. The perfect example. Depends on what you sell. You see other people who are having major increases, so it's not just me. If you're new, again, I can't express this enough. There's a huge learning curve. Your keywords could be an issue. Your titles are an issue. Your listings could be an issue. Your return policies, your feedback. There's just so much to it. There's another number you can look at in eBay in the hub. And I don't remember exactly where it's at, but there's a spot on your main page, depending on how you set it up, where you can look at how many people are repeat customers. That is the number you want to increase. If you only have 1% or less, that's the number you need to work on. You need to bomb these people. You need to, give the best customer service, send out extra emails telling them the item is going to be shipped before it's shipped. Whatever you can do to get that feedback and those repeat customers up. My repeat business right this minute is 32%. 32% of all of my sales last week alone were from people who buy from me routinely. That is a huge, high number. It's not a fictitious number. That is my number. You need to work on that number. Those are the people that are going to be your bread and butter. Those are the people that are going to come back and buy from you week after week, month after month, year after year. I've got people who have been buying from me for 3 and 4 years. You're not going to do this overnight, but that's a number you need to work on. I've talked about it in other videos, ways to increase that repeat business, those repeat customers. That's where a large chunk, of my business comes from. The 32% of my sales may be repeat business, but it's actually a higher percentage of actually stuff sold out of that money. That could be 40 or more percentage of my sales might be those repeat customers. Some people buy 50 items at the same time, 50 cards or 50 this or a bunch of ties or whatever we're selling that specific day. So that is a number that you should honestly be looking at and figuring out a way to increase that. Getting those loyal customers is the way to do it. Making sure your packaging looks spot on. Don't use crappy boxes that have been cut and crossed out with markers or paint on them or stickers. And, every part of this, you have to show the professionalness of it. I know people make fun of the way I pack and stuff, but I don't get complaints about packing. I get comments all the time about how good it is, how nice it was, that they knew that my package was sitting in their box the minute they saw their mail come in because they knew how I pack. That all adds to this, and people say, no, you can just sell it underpriced people. For what I do, for my kind of business, for the kind of vintage and collectibles, people expect different things than they do for newer items, hard goods, and things like that. So if that's what you used to do, hard goods, and you're swinging into this one, you're going to have to step your game up a little bit. I can promise you. A lot of items we sell go to museums and or Hollywood or wherever else they can go, because we sell a lot of movie-related collectibles too. So, you've got to know your market. You've got to know what and how to list and ship and everything to keep it going. Set up a good standard that works. Ship the same way every single time. No, let's ship this way one day and ship another way another. If you start a plan, follow through every single time the same way. You're not going to make mistakes. You're going to have procedures in place. That's key to this. It's a package deal, as I said. You got to have that drive to be doing the hours as well. So how do you handle your lifestyle? I do everything the way I want to do it. It's my show, my game. Everything is about us. So, there's not much to it once you've done it. I've got a full business background. I've got a master's, so I've taken business classes. I've taken, advanced business classes. I've taken microeconomics, macroeconomics, several accounting classes. I did business for 20 years, 10 plus years as a regional. So I've done all of the business. I've done advertising. I've been in TV commercials for stores. I've done, radio broadcasts. I've done, you name it. If it's related to a business, I've done it. So I've got experience that maybe other people don't. I can separate my personal life from my business life. Many people can't do that. They're so used to working for somebody, so they don't have the business acumen to do it properly on their own. Everybody can do it. It's going to take you time. That's part of the learning curve going into this. Get yourself an accounting book. Go to the library and get a book out. I also took business management, project management, basically. If you look up project management, that's another thing that can help you organize. A project manager is basically the person who keeps stuff on time, that keeps, if you've got a deadline, make sure you meet it. If you've got contracts out, they make sure they're signed. They make sure everything's not, overflowing or going beyond it. Making sure the time limits are met, making sure everybody who has a stake in that specific part of it's correct. I mean, there's so much more to this. And I don't want to sound like a braggart at all. So again, don't take it that way. I'm pretty mild-mannered. But I've been doing stuff for a long time in my life. I took the learning curve. As I said, my first year we were terrible full-time wise. It was rough, eating ramen noodles while the kids ate the food, whatever was good. So, it's going to be a rough start. I can promise you that. But once you got the hang of it, you can figure out how to save a nickel here or a nickel there, or to track things besides eBay so you know where stuff falls, know where you can get 5 extra cents out of doing it this way, or, figure out your shipping way that'll save you a few cents here. Whatever you can do, it's not just about listing. It's about saving money. It's about, cutting costs. It's about spending, saving time, whatever you can do. Most people starting off, that's one of the biggest issues. But I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Let's move on and see. Let's get a few more questions. I'm going to be cutting this off in just a couple minutes here by 1:15. It's just been a long week here with my son. I hate going to the hospital. It's just a bad experience all around. But let's see. I sell clothing hard goods. I am up 550% over the same time last year, and 30% up over the last 31 days versus the market. Yeah, I don't really work the market. Again, those numbers are versus your top 2 selling items. And again, it's going to depend. If you listen, you've got twice as many things up as last year. Those numbers aren't going to mean anything. Those figures are just based on sales alone, not counting what you got up. So if you have more items up now, you're going to have a horrendous increase over last year no matter what. So again, there's more to it. You've got to know the numbers. You've got to understand the math of it. I'm sorry to cut it off here. I'll try to get some more questions in this week. If you have any questions you'd like to answer, pop them down below after this video posts in the description below, and I'm going to go through and answer some questions that I didn't get to on the live feed on the weekend here, the best I can. You want to pop up the Patreon real quick? I'm just going to shout out my Patreon and Facebook group. Again, I'm not currently, haven't been on Facebook in a couple days just because of the son and my medical issues for him. So this weekend I will be on, but we do have a Patreon page. The information's here. I also have the Facebook group as well too, which you can see. So just keep that in mind if you're interested. The Patreon is a paid page. No one's required to do it, but I do offer separate videos that aren't shown anywhere else, and I do inside and stuff like that. Facebook group, we do allow posts so you can have your items, ID'd, and people will shut up prices as well. There's no stupid questions in my group. So anyway, let's just pop back on over there, Ian. But I'm going to sign it off here. Again, I do apologize for not getting to as many questions here. I've got a lot in my mind with my son, and my mind isn't quite as well as it should be on some areas, so I do apologize. But again, if you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button down below. Again, that's another thing I hardly do, but if you enjoyed the video, just let me know that. It does help with the channel. It does give me some more opportunities. So for any of those who have appreciated the advice and such, just hit the like button. And again, if you want some questions answered that didn't get answered in the live feed, pop them down below. I do read each and every comment in YouTube, believe it or not, every single one. I don't always answer everyone just because of it, but I will try to do my best to answer questions from this video here, just because I did didn't get to as many as I wanted. But I'm going to sign it off right now. I do appreciate everybody coming on. Again, hit the like button. If you have questions, just pop them down below, and I will talk to you here next week as well.